Do you understand people? Do you know how to get the best from people? Is it easy for you when you approach negotiations to understand what people's interests are? Hi, my name is Potgieter, founder and CEO of JPA. Here at JPA, we're business negotiation experts who help professional buyers and sellers gain the clarity, confidence, skills and tools that they need to blast past their objectives. So, let's talk about understanding people. This is such a pivotal skill. With all the technology that we're surrounded with today, we still have not eliminated people from the decision-making process. So when you negotiate, it's inevitable that you're going to be dealing with people. If this is the case, why is it that we spend so little time trying to understand people? If you're anything like me, you've been through at least 12 to 13 years worth of schooling as a child. Then maybe you've gone to university, you've gotten a degree, that's maybe another 3 or 4 years worth of study. Maybe you've studied further, maybe you've done a PhD, maybe you've done some on-the-job training. But let's say you've probably had something between 12 and maybe 20, maybe even 23, 24 years worth of formal education. How much of that time have you spent learning about people? Didn't think that it was much, right? Certainly in my case, we spent almost no time learning about people. Yet, it's people who create opportunities, it's people who create problems, it's people who promote you, or it's people who get in your way. It's people who sign checks, it's people who open doors. So if you don't understand people, if you don't know how to get the best from people, it's going to limit your ability to be successful. The key skill that you need, the key breakthrough skill that you need to get better deals from your negotiations is to understand people. So I want to share with you 5 things that you can do to get a better handle on understanding people and understanding their interests so that you can get them to move in your directions. The first point I want to give you is that you have to prepare. You have to prepare for your negotiations. You have to understand who's going to be present at the negotiation. You know, who are the key stakeholders that will be present. If it's a team-based negotiation, you want to inquire before you go to the negotiation who will be present, and you want to maybe ask the question, you know, what is it that they want to get from this deal? What is their experience in doing this kind of deal? The more that you can learn about the people that'll be participating in the negotiation, the better your position is going to be when you get to the negotiation table, right? The second way you learn about people is by asking questions. You know, so often what we've seen, so often what people do, and certainly in my experience working all over the world in more than 54 countries, I've seen this. People are far more interested in talking about themselves than they are to learn about others, right? And so here's the unfortunate thing. We say that we want to know what's important to people. We say that we want people to expose their interests, to help us understand what's important to them, but we don't give them the opportunity to speak because we feel it's so important that we communicate to them what's important to us. Now, the key principle that underpins all human exchange, that underpins negotiations, is the principle of reciprocity, which states that we return to others the form of behavior that they exhibit towards us. So what happens if I go into a negotiation and I spend all the time talking about my interests and what's important to me? What can I expect in return from my counterpart? Exactly. They're going to be talking about their interests. They're not going to be more interested in mine. So the sequence in which you need to do this is you need to ask questions of your counterpart. You need to understand more about what's important for them, and then reciprocity will work in your favor. Then they will respond by asking questions and learning more about you. The third thing for you to understand is that people will have different interests, and more specifically, they'll have different preferences, right? So your negotiation capability is really a function of 3 things. It's your behavior, it's your competence, and it's your preference. Now, competence is a particularly poor predictor of behavior, but preferences is your preferences are a very accurate predictor of behavior because you're going to end up doing more of what you like doing, right? So the fact that you're able to do something doesn't mean that you're going to do it. If that was the case, nobody would exceed the speed limit. You know, we'd all go to the gym and work out at least 3 times a week for half an hour. We do all these things that we have the competence to do, but our preferences, of course, is what ends up dictating what we do. So you have to be mindful of the fact that people will have different preferences to you. Now, when we're raised, our parents always tell us that we should treat others the way that we wish to be treated. And that's beautiful because it means that we should treat people with dignity and respect. but it doesn't mean that people's interests are the same as yours. Just because you think it's important to focus on the numbers, or because you think it's important to be innovative and look at new ways of doing things, or just because you think that everything is about risk management and structure, or because you think it's all about the people and it's all about connecting in relationships, does not mean that your counterpart might think the same way. We all have different preferences. So here's the fourth thing. It's not useful to think of people who have different preferences, people who like different things to you. It's not useful to think of them as wrong and you as right. Well, if there's one thing that I've learned in my experience traveling through the world and working with people from different cultures, one thing that I've learned is that once you can accept people for who they are and you just think of them as different, you will be amazed at the level of acceptance that's exhibited towards you. Right? So very often our default knee-jerk reaction, if people are different to us, is to think that they're wrong and that we're right. But if you can just open your minds ever so slightly and think, you know what, they're just different, it's a different way of doing it, you'll be amazed at the improvement and the ability that you have to connect with those people. Which leads me to my fifth point. When we talk about different people, different interests, the world teaches us, and this is certainly what I've learned from my mentor, that we look for unity in conformity. So we look for things to be the same. If things or people are the same as us, we believe that there's unity in that. But that's not true. The best expression of unity is diversity and harmony, not unity in conformity. Right? So embrace people who are different to you. The best teams, the best organizations have figured this out, that we need people with different skills, with different interests, to provide us with a whole brain or a holistic team so that we can be successful. I hope that helps you to be successful in your negotiation.